Imagine this. When Jimmy Page, one of the most guarded stars of the 1970s, finally dares to reveal a topic that has been whispered, music, about for decades, the rock world stops. He comes forth today to reveal the 7 worst cheaters in music history. Identifying and exposing musicians who have been hiding their darkest secrets for years, music, hiding desires, excesses, and affairs that have ruined friendships, bands, and even whole lives. Eric Clapton, a guy whose brilliance was only surpassed by the turmoil of his heart, was the first name to appear on this notorious list. Regarded as one of the best guitarists of all time, Eric Clapton's personal life was a perilous game of fire and shadows. One of rock's most notorious controversies was sparked by his obsession with music, Pattie Boyd, George Harrison's wife. It was more than just a romantic relationship. It was a betrayal of music that sliced right through the bonds of devotion and friendship. Clapton's relationship with Harrison was damaged by his eventual marriage to Pattie, and his hidden affection turned into an open wound that never really, music, healed. Imagine the difference. Clapton's guitar wept with beauty while performing live, soaring with unadulterated emotion, music that appeared to reach the heavenly. Clouded with music, smoke, offstage, behind closed hotel doors. Betrayal took place in whispers and moments that were stolen. Two legends' friendship devolved into a hostile environment of mistrust and silence. The exploding disputes, the tears that stain lonely pillowcases, and Harrison's empty expression when trust broke were all hidden from the fans. Music. Clapton's music reached legendary heights. However, his decisions left a legacy characterized by both genius and shame, as well as destroyed music ties and broken trust. Mick Jagger, the epitome of charm and deceit, was the next rock star to emerge. The Rolling Stones frontman, MC Jagger, transformed adultery into a kind of art. He radiated charisma on stage. Offstage, there was a darker portrayal, yet upstage, every move was a magnet for yearning. Women loved him and his music, but underneath the allure lay a path of humiliation and heartache. Like thunder rolling long after the lightning had hit, his escapades with models, music, actresses, and even the wives of his own friends unleashed storms that never really subsided. Image Bianca Jagger, music, was compelled to witness her husband's treachery unfold in front of the world. The shame she experienced was starkly juxtaposed with the grace and elegance of music. Consider Jerry Hall, whose years of devotion were devastated when it was revealed that he had yet another affair. For Jagger, every victory was an act of self-glory, but music was a dagger into the confidence of his closest friends and family. The shadows of his personal ruthlessness were inextricably linked to the glamour of his public persona. Music, his desire for dominance and indulgence, music, seeped into the delicate chemistry of the Stones. In recording studios and backstage, music, passageways, rivalries erupted, friendships deteriorated, and mistrust spread like poison. Someone once wrote a thesis about Paul McCartney's death, and Paul is dead. And I mean it when I say that if you listen back the records. It's the band's mythology included Jagger's personal lies. In a world of betrayal and secret, where every song carried the weight of wars fought, music, behind closed doors and every smile concealed mistrust, brilliant music was born. Those who dared to adore him were left damaged by the same charm that took over the globe. The tale of Steven, music, Tyler, a guy who lived on the brink of fame and ruin, followed. In addition to being about women, Steven Tyler's music, infidelity story also dealt with self-destruction. The 1970s and 1980s were a time of extreme excess for the frontman of Aerosmith. Music, his relationships frequently went too far, leaving lovers profoundly devastated. Addiction, backstage altercations, and litigation were intertwined with Tyler's infidelity, music, scandals, creating a more sinister image of the shrieking devil. Imagine this. His voice rose like thunder in glittering arenas. Music, and then the sharp contrast of slammed doors, curses reverberating through hotel corridors, and the sound of music shattering trust. He was a stage god in an instant. The next shows a careless lover ruining everything in his path. Bandmates rolled their eyes, tired of yet another scandal that threatened to destroy Aerosmith, while girlfriends stood in tears. The music shadows of treachery clashed strongly with the glamour of the spotlight. And the same artist who had the power to electrify a stadium also left those closest to him, music, feeling broken, betrayed, and shaken. David, music, Bowie, whose genius was only surpassed by his double life, was the next person to be revealed. Despite being a master of reinvention, David Bowie's personal life was marred by treachery. The boundaries between love and dishonesty were blurred by his marriage to Angie Bowie, which was rife with scandals, affairs, music, and startling liaisons. He was plagued by controversy for years due to rumors that he had affairs with both men and women. Fans were left stunned by Angie's music depictions of Bowie's adultery, which she never hesitated to share. Bowie's talent produced immortal songs, but his thirst for novelty left devastation in his wake, with treachery hiding under the glitz. Music, imagine London during the beginning of the 1970s. Bowie's androgynous look was drawing attention as rumors of his private life spread like wildfire as he moved through smoky clubs during the height of his Ziggy Stardust stardom. Music. As Bowie's desire for romantic experimentation reflected his ongoing music reinvention, Angie was frequently by his side but also ignored. Every music night, devotion and treachery fought in their home, which turned into a rotating door of superstars, lovers, and mayhem. Later, Angie herself disclosed shocking details about Bowie's liaisons with models, musicians, and even close friends. Their shaky marriage was ripped apart by each rebel violation, music, till trust was no longer there. Bowie paved a path of humiliation and shattered hearts in his pursuit of freedom, music. He was the slender white duke, endearing, mysterious, and unreachable to many. Music, however, he was a man driven by impulses behind closed doors, leading a double life that no music stage costume could ever completely conceal. His legend was shaped by this deceit. The brilliance that made scandal legendary. The musician whose music made the distinction between identity and actuality hazy. Angie and others, however, bore the scars at the heart of the display. Reminders that Bowie's genius frequently came at the cost of grief and betrayal in music. Then came Axl Rose, Guns N' Roses' Untamed, music, heart, whose treachery blazed as intensely as his voice. Guns N' Roses is the most music hazardous band in the world, as you have undoubtedly heard. However, Axl Rose's betrayals caused a trail of rage behind the scenes. Infidelity, violent arguments, and a poisonous cycle of love and hate ruined his relationship with Aaron Everly, which was memorialized, music, in Sweet Child Mine. Lawsuits, tabloid explosions, and persistent rumors were all caused by Axl's music affairs and careless behavior. His infidelity scandals went beyond personal music issues. They seeped into the band's reputation, causing tensions that, at their height, almost brought Guns N' Roses to ruin. Imagine the late 1980s. Music, clubs brimming with groupies, Hollywood's neon-lit Sunset Strip, and Axl, already a volatile character drawn in all directions by fame and temptation. Once a representation of Aaron's gentleness, music, fell prey to his storms. Their relationship broke down into public outbursts that, music, tabloids gorged on, jealous accusations, and, music, shouting bouts behind closed doors. The band was constantly embarrassed by the lawsuits that followed, which dragged their love story through music, the courts and into newspapers. The turmoil bled like poison inside Guns N' Roses. Bandmates became enraged by Axl's actions and became concerned that their leader, music, was collapsing under the weight of scandal, rather than just missing rehearsals and performances. As Axl's personal music demons destroyed their reputation, Slash and Duff McKagan struggled to keep the band together. Fans who had previously perceived his voice as passionate and rebellious now saw anarchy music reflected in the headlines. The litigation, the anger, the cheating. All of this was included in the myth, but it was also a part of the devastation music that almost brought the most deadly band of its era to a halt. Gene Simmons, the monster of Kiss music, who turned adultery into a brand, was another name that Page revealed. Kiss's Gene Simmons never concealed his extramarital affairs. He showed them off. However, the never-ending line of women music that were shot and recorded ventured into areas that caused pain to those who were closest to him. Before they were married, Simmons' long-term lover Shannon Tweed suffered decades of betrayal music, continuously humiliated by Simmons' public claims of his victories. As Simmons' actions became as infamous as his music basslines, consider the backstage excess, the boastful interviews, and the bandmates' silent rolling of their eyes. Cheating became a part of Simmons' brand, albeit at great personal expense. Imagine the bigger-than-life screaming crowds, Kiss, music, tours, fire-breathing theatrics, and behind it all, Simmons entertaining admirers in hotel rooms. While those close to him suffered the embarrassment, he boldly boasted about having thousands of partners, transforming adultery into a music public image. Shannon put up with music, the tabloid photos, the gossip magazines, and the nasty rumors that dogged her for years. Simmons' constant confessions, music, portrayed her as an unwilling observer of his excess, despite her best efforts to maintain her dignity. His actions caused their own rifts within the Kiss music, knowing that the rock playboy persona occasionally overshadowed the band's music. Paul Stanley frequently took offense at Gene's haughtiness. Women were moving in and out of music backstage rooms like a revolving door, according to crew workers who described the turmoil on tour. Insiders saw the wreckage of shattered music, trust, damaged egos, and a man whose insatiable quest for attention, music, pushed limits too far, while fans applauded the spectacle. However, there is a worse irony in Simmons' story. His incapacity to control his personal desires almost brought down the very empire he had built on outrageousness. He was unable to completely erase the stain caused by the affairs. He will always be seen by many as the demon who spits flames and flashes his tongue on stage. Music, however, beneath the mask was a man whose history of dishonesty was more profound than his theatrical antics could possibly conceal. At last, Page introduced Keith Richards, music, whose treachery rocked not just a bandmate but the Rolling Stones as a whole. Keith Richards was well known for his devotion to both his band and his music, but there were also hints of adultery in his private life. The Rolling Stones were devastated by his complex relationships with Anita Pallenberg, who was also romantically involved with Brian Jones. Jones's addiction and paranoia worsened as a result of the betrayal, feeding a poisonous atmosphere already in place. Richards' decisions turned into yet another illustration of how cheating, music, in rock was never solely about love. It was about rivalry, power, and the breakdown of trust between people who co-founded empires. Imagine the scene with music. The Stones were at the peak of their game in the late 1960s. However, they were falling apart behind closed doors. Anita and Brian had already experienced violence and envy in their tumultuous relationship. The wounds became even more severe as she started to feel drawn to Richards. Once the band's brilliant founder, Brian watched in agony as his buddy and band Mark, music, got involved with the woman he loved. What first appeared to be a personal betrayal became a tempest that contributed to Brian's growing estrangement and, music, drug addiction. The band's rehearsals and tours were tainted by the mistrust, music, that resulted from the affair, which was discussed in bars from London to Los Angeles. For many who knew the truth, Richards, who had always taken pride in his brotherhood with his fellow Stones, music, was labeled a traitor. The fact that Anita was by Keith's side came to represent both rebellion and an unbridgeable split. Music, beyond passion, there was betrayal. It severed the band's core, and, music, played a part in Brian's downfall and, eventually, his untimely death in 1969. Music, despite his devotion on stage, Richards kept this blemish in music private. This personal scandal is inextricably linked to his legacy as the pirate king of rock. It serves as a reminder that even the most well-known guitar riffs were created in a furnace of grief, betrayal, and envy. Page disclosures serve as a reminder that there are meticulously concealed mysteries lurking beneath the rock's splendor. Music, marriages broke out, friendships became silent, and bands disbanded. While some musicians attempted to rebuild, others were ruined by what they kept hidden. Ultimately, the music we adore was created from music, shadows that will always exist in addition to brilliant ideas.